By reducing the staff down to one full-time staff person, you are also reducing the scope of the ministry, but you're also reducing the staff, so there's really no net gain. That one person, there's just too much for that person to do. They're essentially going to be a one-man band. The ministry, I really don't think, is going to be all that effective, and in many ways it could be the beginning of the end. I really don't think that just a single staffer is going to be sufficient for even a more limited scope ministry. I think it's going to be very difficult to find one person that can do all of the duties outlined in your job description. They're essentially going to be a Superman. They're going to be able to be skilled at doing development and fundraising work, at the same time leading and coordinating ministry efforts of the volunteers and maybe additional staff down the road. But basically that person is going to be burdened, overburdened, and I really think that it's going to be tough to find somebody who can do what you're asking them to do effectively, especially at the level of compensation that you're proposing. What I'd ask the board to consider is taking the director role and breaking it out into two separate positions, and take all the different roles that have to be played by that director that you've outlined, which are essential, but break them out into two separate positions and two separate people with two separate sets of gifts and two separate skill sets that they can bring to the table and effectively carry out what needs to be done at the Root Cellar, and do it more effectively as a team. Just essentially create a leadership team and have those folks complement each other, work together to get what needs to be done. Two positions, one being the executive director. Okay, now this person is essentially in charge of the Root Cellar. They report to the board, they do all the board interaction. They also do fundraising and development, financial development. They do the overall vision, strategy, oversight of the ministry. So that's basically one person. Okay, and I propose, I would like to do that. I think I have the gifts to do that. And I am looking, in this case, I think, considering what my needs are and what resources are available to the Root Cellar, I'm proposing that I do that on a part-time basis for, say, $20,000 a year. And complement that with the other position, which would be the managing director. And these labels obviously are totally up for grabs, but for my purposes, an executive director and a managing director. Managing director is in charge of the daily operations, and they basically do staff development, staff oversight, ministry coordination. They run the Root Cellar day to day. Okay, they're basically the full-time person who's operationally running the show. And I would propose that you folks consider Joel for that position, but don't pay him $38,000 a year. That's a $45,000 per year position. That will give him a compensation package where he can raise his young family on. He wouldn't necessarily have to go out and get another job, which would dilute his focus. And it would also affirm our commitment to him, and that we really want to continue with him and use his gifts and his skill set. So I would say that Joel and I can work together as a team very effectively. Heather Kidd, who used to work at the Root Cellar, knows Joel. She knows me. She's written a letter testifying to what she believes to be a potential dynamite team between Joel and myself. And that letter is also here. Scroll down, it's on the website. But it sounds like we can really make a good go of it together. Now that we'd be spending more, the Root Cellar would be spending more money and allocating more resources towards this team than what you had originally intended. But Lord willing, we will effectively, my goal as a fundraiser would be, and again, I would be focusing on that primarily, would be to get the root cellar to become self-sufficient in its in its financial requirements at some point here in the next few years. And I've got a number of ideas on how to get there. But that's kind of what I'm proposing is a dual leadership team, not a co-leadership, because someone has to be in charge, and I propose that be me. That I would still be in charge strategically. Joel would report to me, and I would report to the board. But I think together we can really turn the root cellar around and get it headed in the right direction. Me, I'm a business person. I've just closed down, closed down my second business back in December. I live in Greene. I have lived in the Lewiston Auburn community for 25 years. I go to church in downtown Lewiston at Free Grace Presbyterian Church. I'm an ordained deacon. I believe in empowerment. I believe that giving people handouts is just going to increase their dependency. As Scott mentioned in our phone call, referring to the Toxic Charity book, which I have since been able to take a look at. I agree wholeheartedly with the principles expressed in that book by Lipton's ideas. I would much rather see people become strengthened in their skill sets. They need Jesus. They absolutely need Jesus. We all do, of course. And the root cellar, by being a channel for the church, the local church, can certainly live Christ, live out Christ, and represent Him in our lives as we minister to folks in that community. So we definitely want to share the gospel, not just in word but also in deed. But importantly, I think it's important that we look at ways in which we can use the folks in the community, partner with other organizations. For example, the Chamber of Commerce. I'm sure Chip would be more than happy to put together a program together with us for maybe even, I look at our commercial kitchen we have at the Root Cellar, which is an incredible asset. Instead of cooking a meal and giving it away free, maybe what we could do is partner with the Chamber and do an entrepreneurship course, and basically make the Root Cellar, in some senses, in some ways, and sometimes, an incubator for restaurants. So let's say that somebody in the community wanted to start a restaurant. We can help them get that restaurant going. They can prove the idea at the Root Cellar, and then as it prospers, they go and they find space and they open up their own place. I mean, that's just one idea I had, but those are the kinds of things that I think that the Root Cellar ought to be doing, is helping people in the community improve their lot and help them help themselves. Yeah, just a few ideas that I had. One is I would like to put together a corporate retreat. In other words, get some of the board members, anybody who can attend on the board, get various stakeholders, volunteers, even clients, and get people together, maybe go off to Blueberry Mountain Retreat Center and just take a day and pray and talk through what is the mission of the Root Cellar, and let's clearly define and refine that mission and refocus. And I think that sort of an event would be helpful. Another thought I had, just in terms of fundraising, and there's a million different ways to fundraise, obviously, but give a dime. If a Christian in this community just committed to giving one dime every day to the Root Cellar, that would be $3 a month. That's $36 a year. And you multiply that by a number of folks doing that, that can be a nice steady base of income, supplemental income. Planned giving, seeking capital campaigns. I have no problem making presentations and talking to folks who have resources. So I'm excited about fundraising and doing capital campaigns for the Root Cellar. And I really believe that within a reasonable amount of time, we can get the Root Cellar financially independent from Portland, and also prospering beyond that, and hire additional staff, increase the compensation for those who are working there, and really make it a good program. I'd be happy to meet with the board and talk about some of my ideas in more detail and get to know folks. I'm pretty flexible, and we can even do it online using a Google Plus Hangout, or some sort of an online type of meeting, if that would be convenient for some folks. Thanks very much. Appreciate your consideration. Take care.